Hey, how's it going? Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to start normal mapping. So, what I've got here is my workbench, and my workbench contains my unhidden high polygon and low polygon models. There's no lights in my scene because I don't really need any lights in my scene, and I'm going to delete my tools because I don't really see a point where I'm going to need them at the moment. So, I'll just wait for 3dsmax to finish being loaded so I can move it around a bit. There we go, get rid of those. They did us proud, but, you know, their time has been and gone. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start doing some work on the front toe. Before I do, though, what I need to do is hide everything except the low poly. Now, with the low polygon here, if I zoom on it, I'm just going to select everything, and I'm going to apply a simple overall smooth modifier to everything on this. And this will mean that we've only got one smoothing group. So if I auto smooth it to about 23.5, now I'm not going to right click and collapse. Instead, I'm going to stick an edit poly on top. And then on top of the edit poly, I'm going to put a UVW unwrap. And click edit poly and collapse to. Okay, so with our UVs all nice and safe now, what I'm going to do is go here to my front toe, and I'm going to unhide all. Okay, and this is where I'm going to start. Now I'm going to make a material, and this is going to be called our dummy 1, and this is just going to be a nice bright blue, so that I can tell when I've got the object that I want selected. I just completely reset that, didn't I? Hang on. There we are. Right, now, if I right click here and hide unselected, actually before I do, I'll just save my workbench. That way if there's a problem I can come back to it. Okay, hide unselected. Now then, what I want to do is select my low polygon one, which is here, and I'm going to change its name to low poly front, because it should be low poly. Now for my high polygon object here, I'm going to isolate it for a minute or two, because there's a couple of errors that need to be fixed on it that you're not going to notice until we start kind of zooming around the model a bit. And then you can see them. Can you see that triangle just there? And that one just there? And I have Greg to thank for this, by the way, so thank you very much for pointing this out, Greg. We've got a bent polygon. One there, one there. We'll zoom in on this one first. Because if we don't fix these, then it's going to bite us in the bum later on. I'm going to go there, and do a bridge. Let's just cap off this remainder. Okay, now down here. Sometimes you have to do things a slightly different way. Let's see how a bridge looks here. Wonky, but then again, the placement of this is slightly wonky as well, so I do wonder. Okay, let's apply smooth to this and see if that helps at all. As you can see, we've still got a bit of warped geometry there, certainly, and there. That's going to need to be fixed. Okay, let's go back to these. Now then, we can see with these triangles exactly where the warping is taking place just by doing that inset. So let's have a look at some of these vertexes that are vertices, sorry, not vertexes, vertices that are kind of surrounding this. That's a bit of an overlap there, which would explain quite a lot. Let's grow this out again. Just looking for ways to try and just repair this triangle, because you can see where the problem lies. Cap it. Right. There's a vert here. The main crease issue seems to be over here, unfortunately. It just can't seem to flatten itself out, so what I'm going to have to do is grow this. Not too much, I'll just shrink it down again. And detach it. Shrink it a little bit. Not too much. Because the problem's coming from this vert here breaking up this polygon, as you can see. So I'm just trying to study the polys around the outside and see if there's a way we can clean them up a bit. Could probably do with a cut running down there. Just move it into there, and as you see, that's got rid of that broken triangle there. We've still got this one here though, and I really didn't want to kind of just draw straight across there, but let's see how that looks. Okay, as you see, that's brought us the triangle straight across the middle there. It's because the middle comes down, as you can see just there. Let's see if we can smooth out this crease a little bit more. We probably can't without doing some more work on these corners. And I think a lot of the issue is coming from this edge here. In actual fact, what I think I'll do is cut this from here and here. Try and avoid giving us too strong a cut if I can help it. Okay, that's done a bit. I mean, we've still got this dimpled area in here. Let's have a look at this. Sometimes, unfortunately, you have to make minor changes to your model, even if you don't want to. One there. Just look for a decent point to connect it to there. Okay. Here to here. Do a quick bridge. Ring it, and a quick connect. Do a target weld. Really close together, these ones. Collapse those. Pull back. Okay. Cap those out. This will give me an idea of just how bad these parts are. Okay, and I'll apply my smooth again. Makes a big difference, sadly, doing this. Couldn't think so, but it does. There, that's fixed that area and that area. Go around and make sure they're all okay. Now if we look down here, there's still a minor issue just there off that. Okay, let's go back to edible poly again. Just the way this piece here is positioned, unfortunately. It's making me suspect that it's slightly off kilter for the high polygon object. It might be easier just removing this one completely. Let's have a look. Then I can see if the actual polygon itself's bent or not. Oops, wrong one. Polygon does not appear to be bent. Okay. Thankfully, we're not short of a few rivets, so we can certainly afford to lose one if we have to. Okay, that's fine. Let's convert that to an edible poly and exit isolation mode. Now that was long, and I apologise. However, it's one of those things we kind of have to do. Right, let's go to our unwrapped object and just apply our blue to it. Now I'm going to go to projection map, and under my render settings I'm going to click setup. I'm using mental ray. You can use whichever render you like. Make sure your anti-aliasing is set to a moderate level. Mine's minimum 1, maximum 4 samples per pixel. I'm going to enable projection mapping, and I'm going to pick my high polygon toe on the front. I'm using my existing channel. There's no sub-objects. I'm going to add a diffuse and what the hell, a specular, even though it won't do much, and a normals. Now I'm going to set all these to 2048. Normal map, I'm not even going to bother assigning to a slot. I'm not going to output it into my source. I'm going to save source. Let me see, rotate clusters, fill holes, don't need to fill those in. There's a padding option up here, which basically pads out the edge so you don't get any black kind of empty areas. You can have that set to 2 or 3. I'm going to set mine to 3 just for the sheer hell of it. Okay, now you should be at a point once it's auto-saved where you can just whack the render key. Now, the following elements do not specify a target map slot. This is not an issue, we just haven't assigned the normal map to anything yet. So I'm going to click continue and just overwrite my test files from earlier on. Okay, the rendering will only take, about a minute or so, depending on how fast your computer is. Probably be faster if you've got a quad core. However, that depends on what kind of computer you're using. You'll see our map appears as a tiny little thing up in the top right-hand corner. Now, pardon me because I'm stretching. Any red areas that appear mean there's minor mistakes in the mapping, because what we have here, which I haven't mentioned, is an automatically generated cage that basically is the maximum distance that this will look for a normal. the maximum distance it will send out. You know, it's little rays to try and find the edge of what you're doing. What I tend to do is reset the cage and then expand it out myself, and then you can tweak parts depending on what you want and how you want it to calculate. Best way to make sure you haven't got any unit sections is just select by face, do a Control A, and then rotate around your model and make sure that the red doesn't have any breaks in it. If you see a break, it means your normal's intersecting somewhere. If it isn't, just turn that off and just click render. Click overwrite 3 times because it's creating 3 maps. Remember, it's creating big maps as well. Okay, make sure you've got plenty of space on your hard disk drive. Pardon me if I'm yawning a lot. I've been... how many hours has it been? About 20? Something like that. If you look, our normal map's actually worse than it was when we started. We've got even more red. So let's just push this out a bit more. Just trying to avoid getting any areas that cross over, like you would with a polygon when you're doing an extrude or an inset or a bevel. You don't want the verts of this cage to cross over each other because you're going to get errors that you don't want. But on the other hand, you do want this to be searching for the nearest possible polygon for making its normal map with. There we are, that's better. No horrible little evil red dots. Right, so if we go over to Adobe Photoshop CS, I'll just close off these because these are the old tests. Grab these, Control and drag them to my edit folder. Now I've got this edit folder basically so that I can... Did I click yes there? Yeah, I've got the edit folder basically so that I can edit them in here while keeping the originals down here. And let's have a look at all 3 maps. Okay, diffuse, nothing in the specular, and this one is our normal. Now, because I've applied the smoothing groups, for which I want to thank Greg profusely, it means that my model is actually going to come out a lot better than it would if I hadn't done my smoothing groups. I can't find an image really to show you what it would look like without. There is some pinkness going on here, but I don't have the time to go around and move my cage all the time while I'm recording tutorials. There's a lot of parts that I've got to do, unfortunately. And that may sound like a cop-out, and sure, maybe it is. It's unfortunate, but it's the way it goes. Right, I'm going to hide my high polygon toe front by deleting it. That's the man's way of doing stuff, you see. I'll stick an edit poly on the top of this. And in my material editor, I'm going to free up this 3rd slot here which isn't being used. And in here I'm going to stick an FX shader. So this is a DirectX shader. This is real-time rendering. If you've got OpenGL enabled instead of DirectX, go and enable DirectX now. Okay, this allows us to load up a DX shader. I'm going to call my material normal preview. And in my DirectX shader itself, I've got one of Ben Cloward's maps that is written. If you've never been to Ben Cloward's site, here we are, Ben Cloward. And he creates a load of FX shaders that he lets you download for free. I'm not going to give them away on my disk. Go to his website and get them, and be sure to say thank you, Ben, for your very, very clever shaders. Right. I'm going to choose my HLSL normal map specular 3 lights world FX, because this allows me to flip my normal map on the green channel. For my diffuse texture, I'm going to go into my maps folder. Not that one. Mats folder, sorry. And I've had a look in my edit folder and they seem fine, so I'm going to use my front normals. Oh no, this is diffuse, isn't it? Diffuse map, sorry. Just load that in. And I'm going to load in my normal map. And now I'm going to drag it to this. Okay, that's cool, if a little bit too bright. I'll just stick an Omni using an auto grid right about there. You're not the Omni, come back. Okay, and this will illuminate it slightly better. A little bit bright. I can flip the green channel a bit. So you can see it's actually working fairly well. If you want to try a different FX map, you could use perhaps the Specular World. There we go, that's slightly less bright. I'll unflip the green map. And you can see the way that the normal map's being affected by this. I think I'll flip the green after all, I'm not sure. Haven't decided yet. Yeah, that's nice. Okay, so as far as I'm concerned, that's going to be kind of one piece that is mapped out. Okay, let's unhide all again. And if we go over here and take away the high polygon, just press F4, take away this high polygon piece. Zoom in on this one and just make sure it's central because it's gone wonky on me. I can now map this one to it as well. And both our front toes are now normal mapped, basic but effective. And this means that I can now go on and do the side toes next. So, in the next part, side toes. Till then, bye bye for now.